of all, I think your analysis was very straight-lined. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got
that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Tomorrow, Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Guyanese
erratic
Mikhail
detective is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, good, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. Thanks for being with us wherever you are. Good evening, good morning, good night, good afternoon. One of the longest serving sociologists that Guyana produced is on our studio this evening. He has been a sociologist since I was a student at UG in the 70s. That's where I heard his name. I didn't know him personally then, but he was a senior lecturer when I was a student. That's in the 70s, and Dr. Tara Singh has made a name for himself as an academic excelling in the discipline of sociology. He is one of the most known personalities, known names, and one of the most active members of the Guyana diaspora. He is very, very active in the area of charity, apart from being an academic. If you follow politics in Guyana, you will see some very, very intellectually stimulating letters by him in the newspapers. The last one being his rebuttal to Dr. Bertrand Ramcharan, that there is a creeping autocracy in Guyana. So, here in the studio this evening is a person who has been a practicing sociologist and an academic and a long-serving member of the Guyana diaspora, Dr. Tara Singh. Dr. Singh, I know about you since I was a student at UG. It is nice to be speaking to a very, very experienced intellectual from Guyana. Let us start by offering condolence. I know your wife passed away, and I hope you are coping all right. But with your understanding of life, I'm sure you know life must go on.
Yes, thank you very much, Freddie, and welcome to your listeners. As you know, I'm one of the thousands of Guyanese who watch your program almost every time you're on the air. The only time I wouldn't watch it if I'm out of the country or on the field doing something. And I got to thank you too on behalf of the diaspora for your significant contribution to Guyana's politics.
I gotta stop you there. I don't like people talking.
Sociology.
I want to talk to you about what you were a lecturer at UG in the 70s. Why did you leave UG? Why didn't you go at UG like Clive Thomas, Morgan?
Oh, well, in the 70s, actually, when I left school, I went to farming. I never had the opportunity to go to high school. My parents were too poor. So I was in farming. I used to study privately for GC. I'll borrow my friends' books And then I wrote a couple subjects. I was lucky I passed, and then I applied to UG and gained admission. And I did my fourth degree in economics and sociology. And then afterwards, a couple of years, I think was 1975, I was lucky to get a Cornwell scholarship to complete my master's. But when I enrolled for my master's degree, my panel of advisors at the University of Wales said, why are you wasting your time doing your master's? Why not do your PhD one time? I said, well, if you all recommend it, I'm willing to go. So I never did it. I jumped straight
from first degree to
BSc
PhD.
to PhD at the University of Wales. So when I came back, I went and taught at the University of Ghana. And I was there, my last position was senior lecturer, but before I left, I was the Faculty of Social Science representative on the Research and Publications Committee for 7 consecutive years. I ran unopposed, even though people at that time had identified me as a PNC supporter because of my friendship with the Parises. But that didn't bother me.
That's Hassan Paris?
No, Malcolm Paris.
Michael and Malcolm from
Malcolm,
Buxton.
yes. And the other Paris, a whole set of... but that didn't bother me. I know what I have to do. I know what I am. And as a lecturer, I have to associate and interact with all students, irrespective of political persuasion or whatnot. And so that's it. And the reason why I left UG, I think you asked that question, is it has nothing to do. I was doing well at UG. I was the only lecturer who got enormous amount of research funds to do research, and all the other faculty just come to me, ask me to do a little part-time with them. We had IDRC, we had funding from government, etc., and other sources. As a matter of fact, the social work program with the University of Dalhousie, I negotiated that with the University of Dalhousie, but I was going to migrate in 1985, so when the Canadian guy came down from university, the Canadian High Commission had a reception, and I told him, unfortunately, I can't go to seal to consummate the deal. And the man actually used an expletive. He said, you should go, you do all the hard work. I said, well, but I didn't tell him that I'm about to immigrate. So I recommend Gordon Payne to go, and he went and did the deal. In, I don't know exactly years, but I think before that, the Interdevelopment Bank was going to offer Guyana 16 million US development loan, including resource development, where UG would have benefit. And Dr. Walcott was the principal at UG then. And then they asked me to serve as a liaison between the IDB and the university with this. There's a guy, the representative there was a man named Gutierrez from the IDB. He called me into his office in High Street. I went, we discussed, he showed me some data. And he said, you know, most of these data are incorrect. And I look at him, I didn't say anything. I said, well, if it's incorrect, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that we get more update data that might be not updated, etc. I went back immediately, met with the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Walker, and said, Chief, we are in trouble. That you got to understand that these people come with more advanced data than us, more reliable data, and don't try to say that those are not accurate. We got to say, we got to try to improve, and this and that. And he said, look at me, he said, well, you do what you got to do. I went back to Gutierrez and said, listen, we're going to create some new data now, primary source data. He said, what you have in mind? I'm going to do a sample survey of several schools, secondary schools in this country at different locations, because what I wanted to check, one aspect of that study was to find out the educational aspirations of young people growing up. So I developed a questionnaire, pre-test it, and I get UG students to go out at these schools. We didn't have access to computer then, so we'd collate the data manually, hand it to IDB. And IDB was grateful because it forced them, they got the original data based on the survey, and that constituted the basis, one of the basis on which they granted. Well, I went back to Dr. Walker, gave him a report what I did. He said, I don't think we'll get that money. I said, Chief, I don't share your skepticism. I'm very optimistic, and I will continue to negotiate with these people and provide whatever data. And after a while, news came out, the loan was approved. So they asked me to be Jem Fletcher, you know Jem Fletcher.
Yeah, of course.
They asked her to be the head, and they asked me to work with her. I said no, because I know I was emigrating. So I tell them, thank you, but whatever I can assist.
But what was UG like? Why did they accuse you of being a PNC? Who are these people? They're still alive?
My friendship with the Paris M plus some other guys from PNC.
Who would they be?
Jonas, who was the MP then.
Yeah.
And he was my student, but he used to come and rap with me. And one of the things he did for me that so when there was scarcity, I just had to give him a list, tell him the essential things I need, and he'll get it for me through the KSI.
Yeah, Knowledge Sharing Institute. But have you seen that you were...
I was never linked to any political party. I never registered in any political, no way. No, as a matter of fact, in the elections in Guyana, I only voted once, and I went through that process just to find out any loopholes in the system. That's why I went.
But seeing you had a high profile at UG as a sociologist, did Forbes Burnham ever called you? Did any...
Trotman?
Forbes Burnham, the president, the prime minister.
Yes, in a couple of months before he died, before he left, I get a call from the Porcelain Division, and they said the president wants to see you at so-and-so time in the office. So I said to myself, why this man is calling me? I never spoke to him, never met him. So I went, and there's a guy named Borton Gadzadar who
he died. Yeah.
You should know him.
Yeah, he worked with,
So before I went a bit early.
I know Borton well, yeah.
And I asked Borton, I said, do you have an idea what is the president want me? He said, no, but just go and relax. So there's a young Indian lady who was the assistant to him, I think related to Tulsi Prasad. So I had to go and see her, and then I went in. He told the secure opening, and I said, he and I one-to-one. And he said, nice to meet you. He said, Dr. Singh, I would like to tell you that I read most of your article, and that's why I call you. I want you to help us. So I asked him, I said, Skipper, in what way? He said, well, tell you just now. He called the security. He said, see what drink I want, So he said, bring him a scotch and bring a scotch to me to separate the president.
But I'm like scotch.
You just promoting buy local, and you're going to offer me scotch. Just so I told him, and you're going to offer me scotch, bring the local made liquor.
But him don't like you talk to him like that.
No, I told him.
You're contradicting him.
It's on record. They can check it. It's on record. It's on record. Anyhow.
But you must have stunned him there because it was a contradiction.
He told me, he said, you got me there. He did that, and then he changed the drink to the same thing I was drinking, local XM. Anyhow. And he said that, the problem he has is that people have been giving them reports and data on what they think he need and not what actually exists out there. So if I can help them to set up an institute that can collect data, policy analysis, into collect data research, give him original information. I don't want information that people think I need. I want realistic information. So I said, okay, I will set it up, but I just want to ask you, in the course of doing this, who do I report to? I am not going to report to any politician because that will compromise my professional integrity. He said, no, you report to the Department Secretary about whatever your findings. I said, okay. I left. I design it. I do a proposal, what we can do. And I said, I didn't have access to a computer, but I had to run Jordan, who is from management. I said, Ron, this is my idea of the organizational chart, the flow chart. Create it for me. So Ron, get it done. He done it manually, give me. I integrate it within the document, send it. And then they asked me, I said, no, I can't hear it. I said it already. So that, this guy, Bernard, who was the head of Henry Department, head that unit, before he became Minister of Education.
Yeah, Derek Bernard.
So Bernard had it, and Bernard met me, someone, I want you to come to work. I said, no, whatever I can help you or this country, I'll do, but I don't want.
Burnham, you got paid for that task at Burnham?
Paid? No, but he did ask me. So just out of curiosity, he said, Chief, suppose I accept, what will you offer me? Money, fine. You know what you want to tell me? He said, you name it, I'll pay you. Just say, I said, thank you, but, that was it. So I helped them set it up, and
So that was your only time with Burnham? That's
the only time I spoke to him was the first time I met him and spoke to him was that time.
You know what year was that?
I'm trying, it's got to be either 84 or...
Just before he died?
Yeah, not too long before he died.
At that time, money
I would say about 3-4 months before he died.
But that time, money was short like hell in Guyana. Money was short.
Yeah, I know.
The economy had collapsed.
Well, in 1985, not only we run into a deep financial crisis, but the 80s were the golden age of immigration from Guyana, where over 150,000 migrated. Yeah. Now, I'm doing an analysis of that, not to speculate on other people. I have the data from the American State Department, from the Canadian, which I'm compiling now, and I'll get that published. I have charts and things developed on that. So that's people have argued that if immigration was the cause for Guyanese to leave, why from 1990s onwards immigration continued the same rate? That theory is false. It declined significantly. The data is there to support it. I said it's 70 and 80 were the two crucial years of immigration. If you look at Dr. Ramrad's study on it, he did what you call, he extrapolated, and he used simple metrics. The Guyana census of 1970 says 100. The natural increase in population, birth minus death, and in migration will give you the population, right? So if 100, your net increase by 10, in migration by 1 is 111. But when you actually check the 1980 census now, is 80. So you infer the difference between 80 and 111 is migration, and that captures both legal and illegal migration. The data that we have only captured legal migration. They don't capture illegal, but this method for Dr. Ramraj Rood and Clive Thomas, I think, use that as well too, where you capture both. So that's one way where you can overcome that deficiency in data.
When you were at the university and there was this upheaval about Rodney, you didn't get involved in that? You stayed away?
When Dr. Rodney died, I was in a conference in Suriname. We had a joint project between the University of Guyana and the University of Suriname to look at the social economic impact of migration and the transformation of Guyana and Suriname. I was the Guyana coordinator, and Dr. Jack Menke was the Suriname coordinator. And we had the president of Suriname was addressing us at the University Hall when the news break out of his death. Rodney used to come in, he'd just say hello. We never had any discussion. I had several discussions with Harold Latchman, Perry Mars, couple with Clive Thomas, but not with him. So I was not really attached to him, really. I knew very little about him at that point.
You thought that given his activism and his international popularity, he could have removed Burnham?
Well, that's right. I supported him as a scholar. That's my main thing. That I know he's a brilliant man and he can do a lot, and I know he posed a great challenge to Burnham, and so I always supported him in that way. Now, as you know, the Commission of Inquiry said the government was responsible for his assassination, etc. But you and others are more involved in that. At an academic level, I was not involved.
Why did you leave? You had a good offer outside?
Who?
UG, why did you leave? You had a good offer outside?
Why did I leave?
Yeah.
Well, the main reason why I leave, you see, from my wife's side family, all of them migrated. She was the only one left, and she felt isolated. I dealt with her a couple of years, and I said to myself, I can't continue to be selfish, think about myself anymore. All the time, most of the time in my life, I was thinking about myself, my career, and I forget about my wife. And I said, you know what? I'm going to leave. I leave very reluctantly. I had a good opportunity at UG. I always had research funds. I traveled widely internationally at various conferences, etc. A lot of lecturers will come to me and ask me to give them a little spot to do to get some extra cash. And so I was in a very fortunate position. And I get money from various sources, from UG. And so that's one of the reasons. And the second reason, I was sick, hospitalized, and so I was in Joseph's Mercy Hospital, and basic medication I couldn't get.
Yeah,
that really crowded off my thing with my wife combined and caused me. But once I left, and I feel better, coming back to Ghana regularly to make my contribution, charity, and any academic pursuit, I continue on a non-stop basis.
So from the 80s onwards, you were coming.
Oh yeah, from all the time, and following political developments. In the 1990 election, 1992 elections, when the UF got, I think, they got a couple seats.
One. Yeah. TUF.
Yeah.
It was renamed TUF.
TUF, right. Well, I spoke to Nadir. I had a group. I assembled a group of people, diaspora, monetary election. I called Nadir and I spoke to him and said, by all means, you got to give PPP this one seat because we don't want the PNC to coming back again to destroy the country. Nadir told me, yes, he agreed, but the PP got to give him something in return. So I don't know. You know, that's politics. You're bargaining.
He never told you what?
No, he didn't get anything, but he still gave them the seat. He told me, irrespective of what happened, whether he get a seat or not, a cabinet, he will give PPP support, his one seat. He told me that. And in front of the crowd, we had him on speakerphone.
Okay. So what have you been doing the past 30, 40 years in Guyana? Meaning that, you're in Guyana twice a year.
Most of the time I'm involved in charity, identifying areas, badly disadvantaged, single parents, etc. And we've been going out and helping them with medical outreach, food supplies. Some cases we give some of them laptops, bright students, etc. I've been doing that on an ongoing basis. Everybody knows that. The government, everybody knows what I've been doing. But in the course of doing that, I was telling Jai, I also did another thing. Find out from people their problems, what are the issues, And I will try to reach out as you do to the ministers, to the ministry, and see in what way we can help alleviate the suffering. So that is something that is very close to me as well. So I mean that, but I keep a low profile. I don't have to, I know what I'm doing. And so that's basically.
You never applied to be the Vice Chancellor of Guyana when
No.
it was advertised?
No.
You were not interested in that?
Once I left, I get caught up in this charity work and community work combined. And that is my biggest, which I always said, that the core of religion is charity. If you can't give charity, well, then religion is meaningless to you. And my mantra is, no matter how much education you have, how much money you have, what social connections you have, if you cannot contribute to charity or help a man who's falling, give him a helping hand, you're not going to enter into the kingdom of heaven or paradise. That's my mantra, and that has guided me. And my philosophy in life is very simple. Think clean, act clean, and that's it for me. I don't have to read religious book and textbook and these things.
So when you add up the decades, you have contributed significantly in the area of philanthropy.
Well, I prefer that the public will judge that, but I've tried my best, whatever little I can. I do it. I will continue to do it on an ongoing basis. And just before the PP election, we had a big floods. We raised thousands of dollars.
2005, yeah.
Yeah. Raised a lot of money.
You were here during the floods?
No, I couldn't come. But we did raise, and I asked the government whether we should send the funds to them. They said no. Send it to organizations, or you all come and disperse it, whether in money or in kind supplies.
Do you know Dr. Ali?
Who that?
Do you know Dr. Ali, the president?
Yeah, I know him fairly well because before he became president, when he was minister, I used to watch his presentation in Parliament, and I did a few articles on the housing, which he called me and tell me he liked, because I put in a different perspective to it, and it's not a storytelling thing. I'm giving data and analysis that you does. So he liked that, and and before the election, I had a few conversations.
That's the 2020 election.
Yeah, with them. But I had several with the vice president, talking about political strategy, fundraising, etc.
You were here for the 2020 election?
No, I didn't come, but I was communicating with them regularly. And so that was so I helped them. I helped them in that respect. Not me, I mobilized a group. And one of the things I did was to get a group of intellectuals who are not necessarily PPP or PNC or what. I know they're neutral, but I get them to look at Guyana from a different perspective, look at Guyana's development. Forget that you're aligned to any political party, what you can do to develop, help your country. So we work together. I guess they have their political affiliation, but that doesn't interest me. I'm not. Once you can contribute to the development of the country, that is important for me.
You're quite active in the diaspora in New York. Nobody who studied the diaspora, know the diaspora, would miss the name Dr. Tara Singh. Is the diaspora a microcosm? Is the diaspora in New York a microcosm of Guyana, the racial polarization, the political polarization?
Well, in a kind of way,
reverses them.
You see how the diaspora, like most Afro-Guyanese go to Brooklyn, most Indo-Guyanese come to Queens. That kind of geographic separation continues. But I don't think that any kind of hostility or hatred or bias exists. You see the market economy, everybody is so interwoven. But it's a classic Fornival thing. People mix but do not combine. It's the same thing happening in the diaspora. But is it a microcosm of Guyana? I would say no, because a lot of people in the diaspora do not think about Guyana. Once they left here, they forget about Guyana. Just a few, and the few people who think about Guyana who write, they hardly make any positive contribution other than writing, like come, visit a community, help to adopt a school, build a center, they don't do that. They're not involved in actual building, just throwing out ideas. And to me, if you can't back your ideas with action, Karl Marx says, philosophy and these things only interpret the world. It doesn't change it.
Change it, yeah.
Right. So
the philosophers have interpreted the world. The point is to change it.
Yeah, right.
That's his famous statement.
So I don't think is, and some of the people who write in the diaspora, they do not reflect the views. They claim to reflect the views, or they don't. I mean, people like us who are in the community all the time. I mean, we had this guy had a yajna. Over 800 people were there. 800, big crowd. I addressed them and I spoke about the need for being together, unify. Charity is my mantra. I must try to include that in all my speeches. So,
where are you from?
I'm originally from Canal Number 1, West Bank of Marara. I used to live about 5 houses away from Joe Singh.
What about Dr. Asghar Ali?
Dr. Asghar Ali was living about 2 miles away from me.
You guys went to the same school?
He went to high school. I never went to high school, but he is older than me, and but we are friends. We are very good friends.
Well, he's a technical advisor to the government.
Yeah.
He was on the program last Monday, on the program, and he said some interesting things that I don't think Guyanese know. It was him, that's what he said, that the actual seeds of the Jimmy Carter intervention occurred in his presence with Dr. J. Gunn. He had taken he was the governor of the Bank of Jamaica, acting governor. He took Dr. J. Gunn to the US and met Edward Kennedy, and it's there the Jimmy Carter involvement came about, because Edward Kennedy asked Carter, look, I've got Dr. Jagan here with me. There's an election soon in Guyana. Please see what you can do. So he's back in Guyana. I guess you leave shortly.
He was calling just now. He's at the office of the president. Now he's advising on some aspect of the Bank of Guyana. But he's designated to work on the Wales Development Authority.
Yeah, that's what he said.
But they had to pull him to get. The Bank of Guyana needs a lot of reforming. I don't know if the government is addressing that, but other people have spoken, like that Ganga Ramdas and these things. They are called upon the central government to look. They need reformation. This is something they don't make public, but they need. That's badly needed.
What recent activities in Guyana you were involved in philanthropy-wise? Borbis, Asukevo.
Oh, yeah.
What have you done?
In August, we came. I was part of that team. We did how many? I think it was 4.
In case viewers don't know, Jai is in the studio sitting and watching.
5. We did 5 outreaches in West Demerara. 4 people, single parents, disabled people. What we do is targeted. We can't give to everybody because they're private charity. So we ask community leaders to compile a list, and we go and we give each one of them hampers. In certain other cases, they need medical attention. We'll try to get that to them. So we did that. Then we had a request from St. Cuthbert's Mission in Mahaika, and we gave them food hampers. 340 food hampers we give, each weigh about 4 to 5 pounds, and each cost about 4 to 5 years each. We distributed that, and that was done. We got help from Paul Chung.
That's the Gaisuko guy?
CEO of Gaisuko. He gave us a truck to transport these things, and so that was, and then we come back now. We went to Oriala and Siparuta on the quarantine. We gave them 375 hampers distributed, and the same dimensions. But I also, as I said, we check with them their community issues, etc. And so we got us planned, based on the resource availability, etc. But we'll continue. It is an annual thing. It's not a one-time thing, and it's going on for years.
You're not teaching anymore.
No. I used to, but I get caught up now. Now I'm doing so many other things. I'm at home, but I got to do, apart from requirements of home, I do a lot of writing, research, and I have a lot of...
What's your main area of interest in research recently?
Well, not really. Society generally, I'm interested in migration, politics, philosophy, everything.
Let's talk about politics in Guyana then.
Okay.
It doesn't look good for the major opposition party. It's been hemorrhaging, high profile, cadres. Mr. Norton's name doesn't travel well. Translate that into what's going to happen in the next election.
Well, politics, as I said, people's memory in politics is very short. The PPP is carrying out, one of the things I commend the PPP for is taking government to the people. That never happened in such a coordinated or massive scale as is happening under the presidency of Dr. Irfan Ali. But I realize the architect for this is Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, because after the PP lost that election in 2015, the party was crumbling. I know that. I wrote an article on that, and I sent it to the vice president, asked him to tell me if I misrepresented anything. He said no. I published it. Dr. Jagdeo had bring back that party, start to mobilize it at the grassroots level, build it back to the strength today, and he continues with that. If you notice the recent outreaches with the PYO, you're getting hundreds and hundreds of people. They realized that was a major failing of the PPP. So they're working to strengthen that. Coming back to your question about politics now, the AFC have gone through a reverse trend. Rather than building, they've gone through a period of destruction, because the biggest mistake they made, and I always felt this, when they had that no confidence pass, if they had decided to have election in 3 months, as the pollster from Barbados, Wickham, said, if they had done, they had a good chance, because they had a lot of sympathy then to have won that election. But having held on to power, that destroyed them completely. It's similar to President Ramatar when he prorogued Parliament. If he had kept that election within 3 months, he had a good chance of winning the election. But after he opened it for dialogue and this, that was a big mistake, and they incurred the criticism of several people, including the international community. I said that to several people before, but I mean, those are things in the past. Now the AFC, as you know, they made so many promises. I don't know how many. I think they said constitutional reform within 100 days will happen. That was never happened. They have no interest in it. Whether the PP has interest, I can tell you constitutional reform will not happen until after the next election. That is my prediction, based on my assessment of developments and the slow pace at which constitutional reform. Because when the committee meet, they got several terms of reference, they got to go to each villages, get the input, and there's a lot. That will not happen. PP, now the AFC is trying to rebrand itself, but they get the same deck of cards. And now look at the image of you cannot run for political office and hope to win power by having one set of people. This is a multi-ethnic society. Our Indian population, for example, Indo-Guyanese, they're 39%. A source told me that has dropped to 36%. They had a glimpse at the 2022 census, says towards 6%.
So what's the African?
And it's towards 6% now. So politics has become highly...
What's the other, you get a glimpse of what's the other ethnic percentage? Of
the other one, what my source told me, was the Afro-Guyanese 26%.
So there's still that 9-10% by Africa, by Indians.
And the contrarian view what people had, that mixed was the highest growth in population, not so, is the Amerindians.
They were originally 10% a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but they're the fastest growing group now. But I can't wait to see the census data out, because that will help you and I and others to have a good idea of the voting age, population. We can make projections, analysis, etc. Now, the AFC is seen as a sectional party because only, if you look at the face of the AFC, one ethnic group in the leadership. That you cannot commend that to the people of Ghana. This is a multiracial society, and you got to reflect the diversity of this population. That is very important. I know we've been talking about that, and gradually we're seeing this everywhere we go. But AFC, I don't know, for some reason, maybe you know better than I, you are here, but diversity play a large part. And they're working on the theory that I believe if they can make inroads into the American community and get 2 votes, they believe they can remove PVP from power. But
they may create a minority government.
Yeah. That's why they're heading, but they won't succeed with that. The PPP is, look, I went to Oriala yesterday in Siparut, brand new buildings, schools, centers they built here. I mean, you can see the development take place in these Amerindian communities that the PP is doing. I don't know why the people will ever turn away from them to go vote for another party who offer umbrellas and these things. So from that... I will say that the PPP, the AFC still have some strength in Georgetown area, Region 4. They will probably get, I will predict, 1 seat the most.
The AFC?
Yeah.
What do you think is likely to happen?
They had a good stronghold in Region 8, but not anymore. So they were hoping to make some inroads in Year 8, but they can't anymore. PP has taken the initiative, arrest that advantage from them a long time ago.
What do you think will be the PNC showing?
The PNC, as I said, I still believe that voting will be along race lines as far as the Indo-Guyanese and Afro-Guyanese are concerned. And the PNC will not do bad. I can tell you they will do fairly well. And I think the margin between them and the PP may be around 2 or 3 seats, not more. Some people are saying the margin will be wide, but as I explained to you, the last election, although the PNC did badly in office 2015, 2020, they only lost by 1 seat. The PP won by just as 1%. And if you take that as any guide, if history is any guide, that tells you clearly, send a message that voting is still among these 2 groups along race lines. If they have a crossover, 1 or 2%, I would say that's great. Now, the local government election, the PP claimed they had a lot of crossover votes because they won. But you look at the Kingston constituency with Ubraj Narayan won. PP won that now. It's not so much crossover vote, it's more PP supporters come out and voted. The same thing happened like in other areas. In Linden, for example, they get a seat But that was due to the Amerindian people coming out and vote there. The only area where you have any significant crossover is really New Amsterdam constituency. Otherwise, most of the thing was increase in turnout of the PPP in these areas. That's why they got, so I know Dr. Jack Davenhart agreed with me. He has said they have massive turnover, but I don't think that the data will support that. In the 2022, the 2020 elections, I did an analysis, and I showed that, like in a region like West Coast Berbice, and in Lanal, fight a case, the case where the government seized the land, President Granger seized the land, he had to fight them.
People,
about 20 of them. He won that case. I went back and looked at the tract, the voting. Not one of those people who wanted to get voted for the PPP. Not one of them. Now, I put as an example, and I cite 2 or 3 other tracts. Send it to Guyana Times. The editor called me, he said, listen, I can't publish this. I said, why? He said, well, that will put him in trouble. I said, why? What, you want me to state something that is untrue then, and then you're going to publish it? So the article was never published. But I think the way how we got to go about, we got to come how
But
deal.
wouldn't the content of that article would not have opened up areas of reality for them to see, to act on? I mean, if you tell somebody, don't go, if you tell somebody, don't go into that street, take the other street because the man don't like purple people. You being advised not to walk into that street. So you know from what you told, you're gonna walk the other street.
Yeah, right.
So why wouldn't they want to see the thing, publish it, and Ben?
So that's surprising, but I said the thing is, when I was a student in England,
That's a disappointment about politics in Guyana. People don't want.
Freddie, when I was in England as a student, there's a bathroom I went and I saw a post and it said, no matter how fast a lie can run, the truth will always catch up with it. I don't know why it's so difficult for us to embrace the truth, get the facts. But, there's an industry of misinformation, not only here, in America too. An industry of misinformation is flourishing. That's becoming big business now in the political arena. How we can curb that, I don't know. And social media is not helping either. Surprise you, and I mentioned to Dr. Jack Dale, I speak to a lot of diehard PPP supporters, both here and in the diaspora. And a lot of the information that the government is trying to put out, they don't understand it, they don't know, they never heard about it. So it's a question of messaging is very important. How you message.
They need a PR guru, man.
Yeah, well, they have Mr. Kit Nascimento who can help tremendously there, but I don't know what they're doing. But messaging, you see, the vice president doing weekly press conferences is helpful, but people at work during that time, very few of them will listen. You need other avenues to get to the ordinary people, and ordinary people need abstract political theory and rhetoric. They want to hear bread and butter issues. We're going to make them get a job, good health care, good neighborhood safety, etc. They just want to hear bread and butter issues.
But Dr. Singh, if you get a little glimpse of what the census will produce, it means at 36 and 26, the PNC and PPP have to go out there and get vote across the fence.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah. Well,
you can't win the election without it.
Traditionally, they got most of the mixed votes, roughly about 60% of the mixed votes. So I think they will count on that segment 2 as well. That is why they were able to reach 47% in 2020 because of their votes and the mix. So I believe that they work on that. They will have no significant inroads in the Amerindian areas. They'll have a few votes, but not significant. The AFC will even have less. The AFC is counting on some mixed, middle class, urban support in Georgetown. That's where I gather, and based on past performance, that's where they'll get. Remember, they had Region 2, Region 5, and Region 6 in 2050 election was good support base for the AFC. It's no longer all evaporated.
What about Mr. Norton? He doesn't seem to be the guy that would attract.
Freddie, one of the things I was fascinated when I was doing Max Weber.
Yeah,
and you talk about leadership qualities. You know, a leader, in my judgment, should be one who has a vision, who is charismatic, who will abide by the Constitution and rule of law, who can empathize with the public in order to be compassionate, firm but compassionate, one who can fulfill his or her promises to the electorate, and one who is seen not to confine himself to the office, but being out there with the people. It reminds me of Machiavelli, you know. No matter what you do, Byron was attacked because he was an unarmed prophet. Machiavelli had argued if he was armed, he could have defended himself and saved himself. The point he was making philosophically, that although you might have all these tools available to your advantage, and there are certain things that you need, you always got to be armed to protect yourself. And he said the best armor you will have is your love for your people. And coming back to Mr. Norton, I don't, well, first of all, charisma is so important in politics. Charisma can transcend boundaries of gender, race, geographic boundaries, etc. That is a positive. In modern politics, likability is such a crucial factor now. People don't care about what policy. If they like you, they vote for you. They don't care what policy you are. You don't
it
see
seems to have taken over in North America. Right.
Same thing happening in the States. I don't see any different. Likability is a key thing. It's either you like Trump or you hate Trump. You like Harris or you hate her, and that's it. All this talking about policy and this and that, trust me, is meaningless. Yeah. People don't care about that. If they like you, they vote for you, etc. Well, why they like you is a different matter. I don't know. They gotta go into the internal psychology to see how that. Now, in terms of going out, if you're going to ask the same question about President Ali, I think he's a charismatic leader. He has a vision. He goes out to the people.
He's just a likable person.
Yeah, and he's likable. He's and he connects with them. You see, that's it. You can be a politician. You can enunciate all your plans and programs, but if people don't feel that connection to you, it's meaningless what you are telling them. And that's where the charisma comes in. If you're a charismatic leader, eventually people will connect to you. That type of pulling together to you is so important. I doubt whether Mr. Norton is a charismatic leader. I doubt. I don't think he has that, but I may be wrong, but that's my opinion.
What do you think are the areas that the PPP need to work on?
The PPP is doing a good job with the, but one of the weakest parts of the PPP administration is at the NDC level. I've traveled throughout this country. I think the president and the vice president knows that the people at the NDC is letting down the government badly. They're pushing around people. There are widespread allegations of corruption, I have several stories that people told me while I was traveling, not now, when I came in August as well. And these are credible stories, they wouldn't lie to me. And and even Dr. Jagdale admitted that they got trouble at the especially NDC level. I went to one over the river and they complained about it. And these guys, I'm numerous. I don't want to give examples, but that's an area. The second area, they need to refine their messaging, getting in a simple language. And
But let me cut you, Dr. Singh. That is an esoteric, mysterious thing about the PPP. For example, I do a daily column in the Chronicle. I know the president. I am very, very close to Anil Nandalal. So this program, I'm unapologetic. I would like this program to be, to bring a kind of perspective that could open people's eyes. But yet it's difficult to get PPP ministers and PPP people to come on it. And if you talk to opposition, you talk to ANUG, AFC people, PNC people, they're glad. They call me, Dr. Singh. I can't understand that.
Yeah,
you know how much ministers say, all right, we'll call you. And you thought it's your job to come and showcase what you're doing.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I think that this is my view, but I think this may depend on constitutional reform, that they should devolve more authority. But I agree with the government not to devolve any more authority to the NDCs because they are not performing well. They're substandard. They're engulfed, many of them are engulfed in a lot of corruption. And you got to clean that out first before you can devolve.
That could affect the PPPs.
That is what they have to worry about. They got to, and they are not doing enough oversight of these NDCs. They should have like an inspector general in this office to look specifically, create that office to overlook the operations and functions of the NDCs. And I don't know about, even the VP talk about corruption in the contracting process, how it happens. That was going on for a long time. I hope that is cleaned up now. But corruption will affect the results and people's perception of that people don't like corruption, whether PNC or PVP or what. So they got to work on that, the messaging, corruption. And one of the things I've been fighting with them for is to get data on an ethnic, geographic breakdown basis. Once you get that...
What was that? Explain that. Explain that. Go more into detail.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Now, you say you allocate 35,000 house lots.
Oh, yes.
You tell the people,
you want that
you tell the people that, this is distributed on a fair basis. Look at the pictures. How many people will look at the pictures? People want, the pictures could be fabricated, as when the PNC is doing, they get people to put them together and then take pictures. People want hard data. Get the ethnic breakdown. 40% Afro-Guyanese, 40% Indos, 20% this group, etc. That will silence people. You know, when the scholarship was given out, there was a lot of criticism about discrimination. There's a guy named Perez. He did a breakdown of it, and he found that 40-something% were Afro-Guyanese, about 42% Indo, and the rest were others. I capture those figures, publish it back, and I send it to some government minister and tell them this is the data that you need. And see, once they put that, they became silent on the scholarship. They move up to housing. They have the data on housing ethnic breakdown, but they don't want to publish. I don't know why. And but Joel, I think, got some in the ethnic breakdown, where it clearly shows is more than representative. Afro-Guyanese will get to over 40% when they're 29% of the population. So they can't complain about that. They complain about other things. Jobs, they dominate all the jobs in the public sector. So I don't know how. And this idea about power sharing is executive power sharing. That will not work. This is a competitive society. Trinidad and Tobago has similar history, similar demographic structure like Guyana. They are not advocating power share because they know it will not work. It's competitive. If you want power, take your message to the people, let them vote for you and support you. Or, an easiest way is join the PPP if you want power.
Dr. Singh, briefly before we go, as a sociologist, what worries you, or what would you like to see in terms of outside of the political area?
One of my biggest, I love the development taking place. I want to see our community unified. I will also like to see every group maintain their culture. I mean, cultural diversity is very important. But one of the biggest challenges I find that the society is cracking, breaking up. Development is taking place, physical development, but social development is retarded, is moving backwards. Heavy drinking, drugs, broken families, divorce, even simple standards of morality and behavior is weakening. There's so many other things, like gambling is rising, causing a lot of problems. I was told that suicide has declined considerably. I haven't seen the statistics. I've written them several times. They said that is sacred, confidential data, and they won't release it to me. But I did an analysis.
The government said that?
Yeah. The guy said you got to get approval from higher ups. And I have data from 2009 to 2014 where I got this very data where it says confidential. I said, I know I'm a researcher. I will not violate any confidential rule, and I would like to update because I was doing a longitudinal study to measure trends over it, but I'm not getting it. And that's another thing, another deficit in this government, the failure to authorize agencies to release data to people like me and you who need to conduct our research. They are not doing it.
I hope to see you soon when you come back. You come quite often to Guyana. It was quite interesting listening to an experienced sociologist talk about society and politics.
Thank you very much, Freddie.
Nice
it's a privilege to be here. And I know the first time you and I are meeting, I know.
We'll meet again. We'll meet again quite often.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us. You were looking at one of the famous names in the Guyana diaspora, long experience sociologist, Dr. Tara Singh. But most importantly, he comes to Guyana every year to do philanthropy work. And that is excellent on the part of any human being. We will see you on Friday. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
So.